SSE Airtricity, official sponsor of the men's and women's leagues.
Hello and welcome to the 2022 League Launch Live show as we look ahead to what should be another fantastic year of domestic football in Ireland. We've got so much to look forward to, with Shamrock Rovers set to defend their SSE Airtricity Premier Division title once again. Big guns Waterford, Galway and Cork in the First Division, and can Shelbourne repeat their dramatic success this year? In this special preview show, we'll be going around the leagues with our pundits, as well as catching up with players and managers at today's launch. Before we get into 2022, let's look back at a brilliant 2021 season. Welcome to HBV Studios in Dublin and to the League Launch Live show. I'm Marie Crowe and I'm delighted to be joined by Conan Byrne and Alan Cawley as we'll be looking ahead to the 2022 Premier Division. Alan, to you first, and we saw Shamrock Rovers lift the title, the trophy there in the VT just before this. There's a huge amount of hype around their squad. Do you think they will be able to defend their title this year?
They're the favourites, and rightly so, Marie. We all saw obviously what they did last season in terms of the 18-point gap that they finished up ahead of St Patrick's Athletic. And St Patrick's Athletic and Sligo Rovers were surprise challengers for me last year. Initially at the start of the season we would have probably had Dundalk and Bohemians as the main challengers. That never transpired, so they ended up winning the league at a bit of a canter for me. And now you look at in the off season, they've obviously strengthened bringing back Jack Byrne, and we all know the impact Jack had on not only the Shamrock Rovers team 2 seasons ago but also the league in general. So when you think of the quality that they possess, the players, I think it'll be a bit of a headache for Stephen Bradley because there's so much quality in the squad, but certainly in terms of who's the favourites to win the league and can they go and do it, absolutely, I've no doubts about that whatsoever.
It would seem to be a good headache to have so much quality, but at the same time, when you have players, Conan, like Jack Byrne, like Danny Mandro, Richie Towell, Graham Burke, how's he going to keep everybody happy?
That's the challenge that he's going to have to face this year. And even defensively, they've lost Joey O'Brien. I don't think that can't be underrated enough how big an impact that will be in the dressing room. He's a huge influence to a lot of players given his experience, his international experience. And with him going across to Shelbourne as assistant manager now, that is going to be a problem for Stephen Bradley to manage. He's obviously brought in Andy Lyons at right back. I was surprised at that one because obviously Sean Gannon being the most high decorated player in the League of Ireland, but in pre-season now he's managed to put Sean Gannon in as a right-sided centre half in a 3 at the back. So yeah, it's going to be very difficult. As you mentioned, all those players that they all play in the same position. The only thing that I was probably disappointed with is that they didn't sign Owen Doyle. I think that number 9 position has been a problem for them over the last number of years. Having said that, they still score an awful amount of goals with the players that they have, but if you had that number 9, the damage that they could do would be pretty frightening.
Alan, we were always having that conversation the last few seasons about the number 9, and Stephen Bradley has resisted in signing somebody like Owen Doyle for the position, but at the same time he must be confident that he doesn't need to because he's winning the title without having that player.
Yeah, because so many of them chip in with goals from all over the team, Marie, and that's the beauty of it. Aaron Green, there was always question marks in terms of, I don't think in terms of what he brings to the team, but always question marks over whether he scores enough goals. I don't think he does, but he does contribute an awful lot to the team, and I'm sure that's what Stephen Bradley has him in there for. Rory Gaffney, who they've obviously brought back as well. I don't think he got into double figures, but he did contribute with a few goals as well. But that's the argument, I suppose, that Conan is bringing up, in the sense that do they score enough goals, but they're still winning league titles without having a 20 goal a season man. So Stephen Bradley will make the argument, why do I need to bring anyone in? Mandrio scored 15 goals last season as well, league goals, so that's a massive impact from him. As I say, if Jack Byrne coming back, you think of when Jack was here and Aaron McAniff, the amount of goals they contributed and assists between them as well. So they have so much quality, Marie, all over the pitch. you're right to bring up the point to Conan, just in terms of how is he going to fit them all in. That's the biggest challenge I see for Stephen Bradley this year, because that's not easily done. There's a lot of egos in that dressing room as well. A lot of lads that'll think I should be playing, and it only takes one or two to maybe upset the apple cart. So far Stephen Bradley has been able to manage that situation, but I think with the amount of quality that's in around that central area, the number 10s if you like, and Burke, Mandrow, Jack Byrne, you can't fit them all in. So it'll be really interesting to see what he does in that regard, but it will be a challenge for him.
What about the goalkeeper, Alan Mannis? He has been solid over the last few seasons. Do you think he's still at the top of his game? Is he still solid enough to fill that position for the season?
Yeah, there was talk of last year. Obviously, he made a few mistakes, but the previous year he was absolutely sensational. So I think a lot of people were judging his performances last year on the previous year, where he was absolutely phenomenal. He's the best keeper in the league, in my opinion. Obviously, Yaros came in last season at St Pat's and done remarkably well on his first on loan from Liverpool. But I still think Alan Mannis, given his experience that he has, his influence in the dressing room, but also just his overall attributes as a goalkeeper, shot stopping, crossing, distribution from the back, I still think he's the best keeper in the league.
Alan, let's move on to the potential challengers, and we have to start with St Pat's winning the cup, finishing second. Conan did mention Yaros there, and he's not going to be there for them, which from the outset is a huge loss.
Yeah, but I think the biggest loss is the manager, Stephen O'Donnell, and we all know the upheaval, obviously, Marie, come the end of the season last year, and obviously after the cup final and the success and the brilliant day that they had in the Aviva, and then obviously Stephen O'Donnell, the news breaks that he's going to Dundalk. So I think that was a massive blow for St Patrick's Athletic, because I genuinely felt Stephen was on the verge of maybe building something to add the FAI Cup to that as well in his first real full season in terms of his players and his identity on the squad. It's a massive blow. That's not to say the manager that they've brought in is a bad manager. Tim Clancy's a very, very good manager, and he proved that at Drogheda as well. But I just think in terms of what Stephen was building, and as I say, to go to win the cup and also finish second in the league, I think they've regressed in the off-season, not only losing the manager, but you think they've lost Yaros, as you mentioned. They've lost their best centre-half in Lee Desmond, one of the best in the league. They've lost Robbie Benson in midfield and Alfie Lewis, who had a big impact as well. And they lost Matty Smith. Like, there's 4 or 5 definite starters. And what they've replaced them with, Marie, Anto Breslin has come in and a couple of others, and obviously Awalabi up front as well. Whether he'll get enough goals, I just think in terms of the squad that Stephen was building and the success that they had last year, I think it'll be a much bigger challenge for them this year to even get close to Shamrock Rovers.
Conan, what are your thoughts on that?
I concur completely. Just with Lee Desmond was one of the best centre halves in the league last year, over the last number of years, and his exit from the club is going to be massive. They've brought in Joe Redmond from Drogheda United, got very, very good centre half. But I think the area that they really needed well, they're not going to replace Yaros. I think that was the key signing. And Joseph Anang has come in, albeit hasn't had much to do in pre-season in terms of saves to make. Very good with the ball at his feet, but he hasn't been tested in terms of shot stopping. So it'll be interesting to see how he gets on. Owen Doyle's a huge signing for them, absolutely massive. To get that over the line was crucial for Tim Clancy, and it's great confidence for him as a manager going forward as well, to have somebody of own stature at the club. Obviously they played together at Hibernian when they were both there, but I have a feeling that Owen Doyle's going to have a very, very good season at St Pat's, but like Alan says, I can't see them challenging.
Owen Doyle was interviewed after he was signed, Alan, and he was very clear that Tim Clancy told him that when he does join up with the team, that they're going to be playing a very specific attacking style of football that will suit him. But does he have the players to be able to do that around him?
Yeah, I think, to be fair to Tim, what we saw at Drogheda, and that's the only way we can judge him really, and they played a very attacking brand of football as well, and you could argue that they have the players. He obviously has gone into St Patrick's Athletic, a bigger club with a better calibre of player, and that's no disrespect to Drogheda United, that's a fact. So I definitely think he'll look to play on the front foot. He'll be very attack minded in his approach to him. There'll be a little bit more expectation on him this year than what would have been on at Drogheda, so it's a big season for Tim as well. And as you say, and Conan rightly mentions, Owen Doyle is a massive signing for them. He's scored goals everywhere he's been. He's obviously had a brilliant career for himself over in England. He always felt he wanted to come home, but come home and contribute, not come home when he was more or less finished. And he looks after himself really well. He's in peak condition, so I think he'll be a big player for them. But as I say, whether he'll score enough goals, or maybe Awalabi or between them, to get them close to Shamrock Rovers, I just can't see it at all, Marie, this year.
So Conan, there's question marks then about whether St Pat's can challenge Shamrock Rovers for that title. So if not them, will it be Derry City, do you think?
Yeah, I think it's going to have to be Derry City, because I don't see anybody else challenging Shamrock Rovers, Marie. And the signings that Rory Higgins has made proves that. They have Michael Duffy, Will Patching. a lot of talk about Patrick McElhenney, but I think he still has to prove himself considering his injuries over the last 18-24 months. They brought in Cameron Dumigan as well, Brian Maher, Irish under-21 international goalkeeper, who's a fantastic signing as well. I think the most crucial signing is bringing in Alan Reynolds, if I'm being totally honest, as their assistant, given his experience as being a coach at St Pat's, Cork, won the league at Waterford, and then he was Ian Morris's assistant manager last year at Chelsea when they won the title. So to bring somebody up with that experience, and also to have that guile of knowing that of the players that are coming through at underage level as well is going to be crucial to Rory. I think Jamie McGonigal is going to have a great season as well. Came in from Crusaders last season and hit the ground running, and he'll need to do that too this season, but supposedly in pre-season he's been on fire. So yeah, I think they're the only team that can possibly challenge them.
And he'll have bedded in now at this stage as well. He'll have had that time before this full pre-season and to get the players that he wants in as well. But that's going to bring a little bit of pressure too, Alan.
Yeah, there's big expectation now, Marie, because Rory did really well when he came in last year and obviously got them very close to the European position. They just missed out on the last day and finished fourth. And when you think where they were when he took over, so there is going to be more added expectation. Then you look with obviously the news about the budget being increased, and people think there's a lot of money being spent. There is money being spent, but I don't think they're spending it foolishly either. They're very prudent up there, and obviously the owner has invested a lot over the years, but I don't think he's just going to throw money at it either. And I think that's the right approach, Marie. They're looking to obviously bring through a lot of homegrown players as well and local lads, which they have. But I think the signings that they've brought, and obviously the lads are local, Duffy and McElhenney, of course there's going to be expectation when you're bringing players of that quality back. Will Patching as well on loan last year had a massive impact. The one area where I would be a little bit, and it's not a concern, but just in terms of we're talking about them being title contenders and can they overtake a Shamrock Rovers, do to have that marksman up front, to have obviously Akintunde and obviously McGonigal, as Conan said. Are they enough quality? I know McGonigal did really well when he came in last year, and as Conan said, he's been very good in the off season as well, a young player, and I know Rory's very excited about him. Matty Smith they brought in from Pats. Will he play through the middle? Because I know McGonigal played off the left last year, so it'll be really interesting just to see what he does in that regard in terms of that central area up front and who'll score the goals for them. But behind that, in the midfield area and the creative positions, and Dummigan, as you mentioned, Toll at the back as well. So I definitely think they'll be the closest challengers. It's a big ask to overtake Shamrock Rovers, but I think they'll run them close, Marie.
What about Bows, Conan? This time of year, there's always concern about them because they lose players. It's the nature of the setup that they have. But Keith Long has an ability to rebuild and to get players that he wants in to suit what he wants to do. Do you think he's been able to do it this time round?
Yeah, well, he's proved it year on year that he's able to do it. I think there's question marks over Bow's squad every single season with the players that have left the club. I think this season's a little bit different. A lot of people are going to be talking about Georgie Kelly and the 20 plus goals that he got last year, but I think the key loss is Keith Buckley, the captain. Their leader, their influential player in the dressing room, on the pitch, and I think without him they're gonna really struggle. They don't have that player anymore that drives the team on. Rob Cornwall's gone as well. Obviously Derek Pender left, then Keith Buckley stepped up to the plate, and now who's gonna replicate those two key players for them? Georgie Kelly, as I said, is obviously a huge loss. Bringing back in Chris Twardick is a good move. As well, Ryan Cassidy on loan from Watford. It's going to be very interesting to see how he gets on. Now, last year Georgie Kelly didn't hit the ground running at all in the opening 12-13 games of the season, and because he was just doing too much movement. With the players that Bohemians have, and the likes of Liam Burt, Ali Coote, Dawson Devoy, which is a great, they did very, very well to keep him, that it's very, very important for Promise Somachare or Ryan Cassidy, whoever plays up front, to stay within the 6-yard box to try to get those tap-ins that those players will create.
So another player that Conan didn't mention there was Keith Ward, who's now gone to Dundalk, Alan. And Dundalk are a bit of an unknown entity at the moment. Stevie O'Donnell's obviously taken over there, brought in some players that he wanted to join him. But it's hard to know really where they're at.
Yeah, it's very difficult to get a handle on Dundalk, and we won't know maybe until the first few weeks of the season. I think as I mentioned already when I touched on St Pat's, for me, I thought Stevie was mad leaving St Pat's and to go to Dundalk. And I know he has that emotional connection, and I know he was so successful and he was the captain at Dundalk and all those things. And it was probably very, very difficult for him maybe to turn that down. And nobody really knows unless you're maybe in that position. But because of what he was building at St Pat's and because of all the upheaval at Dundalk as well, on and off the pitch, I did think he was crazy to go back to Dundalk. The proof will be in the pudding, really, Marie, when he gets his feet under the table, and he's obviously had to bring in players, and a lot of players have left as well. So we won't know until obviously we see them on the pitch. But I do think I can't see them anywhere near challenging. I think the best Dundalk can hope for this year is that they're in transition and it's a rebuilding job. And if Stephen can do something like what he did at Pats in terms of getting them hovering in around those European positions and maybe qualify for Europe and then build on that for next season, I think that's the best they can hope for.
Conan, we're all so excited about Damien Duff and the impact that he's going to have on the league. But what will the expectation be on him? What are Shelbourne fans going to want from the team that he's going to put out?
To stay in the division, Marie. I think over the last number of years, it's all Shelbourne have been topsy-turvy. They've been up and they've been down. Ian Morris did a fantastic job to get them up. Unfortunately, it didn't work out for them that time. They came back down, but he got them back up straight away. So it's just as with Dundalk, it's just to consolidate themselves in the Premier Division. Not very unremarkable signings. Possibly at Shelbourne, I was probably expecting a little bit more in terms of quality, and then announced over the last number of days of Jordan McAniff coming over from Arsenal, which is like he's at 14, 15, he was the best player ever to come out of this country at that age. Like I'm talking about even better than Jack Byrne. And injuries ever.
That's a bit of a statement.
Well, we're going to find out now soon enough when we get to see him play over here.
But that's when he was 14 or 15, Alan. Injuries have absolutely savaged his career to date, and if he stays fit, Marie, it's a huge signing for Shelbourne. That said, there was a lot of players that have exited the club that got them promoted, and Damien has tried to done his homework, brought in some players, again, not high profile, key names, some of these players that some of the fans might have never seen played before. Two that they look like they're going to be playing a 3-5-2, 2 6s and 2 10s. The 2 6s, one of them got relegated with Longford last year in A. Dervin. The other was Coyle that played for Finn Harps. So it's those two signings. It'll be interesting to see how they gel together, but hopefully they can do well.
Yeah, it'll certainly be interesting to see how they set up and what kind of football they play. Just speaking of signings and the difficulty of trying to get players and also to keep players, and I can't but think of Sligo Rovers and losing Johnny Kenny and John Mann, and just when you look at who they've brought in, have they done enough to replenish, Alan?
No. To be quite honest with you, Marie, I've been very disappointed with them in the off-season. When you think of last year, the start that they made and mid-season, I remember being at a game in Tala when they beat Shamrock Rovers and went top of the league, and there was such high hopes for that team. Now, it was probably premature in terms of thinking that they were going to win the league, but to have them in the position that they got off to such a brilliant start, that tailed off then in the second half of the season, and it probably just fell over the line. I know they got a couple of good results towards the end, but they went through a period of 9 or 10 games where they didn't even win a game and still managed to stay in third, which I think was a reflection more on the league as well, Marie, to think that you could do that and still maintain your place in third, nobody overtaking you, and then, as I say, fall over the line. They managed to get Europe, which was a huge plus, and fair play to Liam for that. But now that there's extra European money and things are good financially in Sligo at the moment, I was so hopeful in the off-season that they were going to bring in, as Conan mentioned, maybe underwhelming signings at Shelbourne, that Sligo Rovers might bring in a marquee signing in the off-season and really go for things next year. But it's been so underwhelming the off-season, and they haven't really signed anyone. Aidan Keane is the only one. They obviously announced the lad that's on loan from Rio Ave over in Portugal as well, a New Zealand lad, so a bit of an unknown to the league. So, as I say, I've been bitterly disappointed with the off-season, Marie. When you think last year as well, they only scored 43 goals. That was a problem area for them last year. They were the third lowest scorers in the league. I think half of those goals came from Jordan Gibson. I got 7 or 8, and then obviously he left, and Johnny Kenny got in 11 or 12. So Johnny's obviously left now. For me, the biggest loss is John Mann, the centre half. I think he's the best centre half in the league. So if Liam knew these players were going to leave, and we all knew they were going to leave at some point, surely you were in a position to try and strengthen or have a ready-made replacement, and that's not easy to say. You'd have as good of maybe what you're losing out on, but surely you would have someone set up to maybe come in. So I've been so disappointed, and have gone from a place where you're thinking they finished third, maybe maintain those European places next year, hopefully maybe challenge for a cup. I never thought they'd win a league, but maybe challenge. Now I think they've gone back to maybe mid-table at best, Marie, because you look around at all the other clubs that the business they've done and the other teams that have strengthened, and as I say, Sligo have regressed massively in terms of the squad.
So if we look at who will be battling to stay up, you did mention Shelbourne. Is it Finn Harp, Strada and UCD then in the fight with them, Conan?
Yeah, I think so. I don't think Shelbourne will be in a relegation dogfight. I think that they will be in a respectable position come the end of the season. But yeah, I think UCD, I think I got a lot of questions when UCD got promoted in the relegation playoff, I was saying that they were going to go straight back down, and my opinion on that hasn't changed. They have made some very, very good signings, and Thomas Lonergan, for one, the under-17 top goal scorer in the country, he moved. Great to see him thinking of his education, because he's been absolutely sensational, and there's going to be a lot of clubs interested. Pats didn't want to let him go, so he's gone to UCD. And then there's obviously Colin Whelan and Liam Kerrigan, who are going to be leaving in the summer, considered they're at the end of their education in UCD. So how are you going to replace players like that? They've brought in Dylan Duffy from Shamrock Rovers. He's an exciting prospect, but the players that I'm mentioning are so young, and they're going into a Premier Division with players and teams that have vast experience at this level. And defensively, I think they'll struggle. With Drogheda, I think that I think UCD will be bottom, Marie. Put it that way. I'll let Alan talk about Drogheda.
Yeah, it's obviously those three. I would agree with Conan. I don't see Shelbourne anywhere near the bottom, to be honest with you. And I think Duff coming in is absolutely massive for the league itself. To have somebody of his stature and his profile adding into the league now, there'll be so much eyes just on him alone. And obviously the league is kicking off with St. Pat's and Shelbourne live in front of the TV cameras as well, so that's going to be a brilliant occasion, Marie. So I don't think Shelbourne will be anywhere near that trouble at the bottom. I would agree it'll be Drogheda, Finn Harps. Ollie Horgan always manages to pull a rabbit out of a hat. He's obviously been recruiting from kind of outside Ireland as well, as he normally tends to do, and he does a brilliant job, Ollie, just fighting fires year on year, and he does great just to keep them up. Drogheda have obviously lost 4 or 5 of their best players. Obviously young Brown went across the water, Conor Kane, O'Reilly at the back, Mark Doyle is signed for Pat, so they're huge losses when you think of how well they did when they won the First Division and the impact that they had even on the Premier Division. It was always very difficult for the club to hold on to them, so they've all moved on. But Kevin Doherty has great experience in terms of being involved with that squad and involved in the league over the years as well, so I think Kevin will do a good job just to keep Drogheda in the league, and I think that's the expectation. The obvious one, as Conan said, is UCD and their lack of experience, but they have a manager who is very experienced in the league itself, Andy Myler, who's been around it a long time. The key for them, I think, going forward, they'll always be attractive to watch. They'll score goals, and if anybody gets a chance, go out and watch UCD at some point in the season. They're brilliant to watch. So much rests on Colin Whelan and Kerrigan, and as Conan rightly points out, if they were able to hold on to them for the whole season, I think it would have given them a chance to stay up. The fact that they'll probably move on in the middle of the season, I think it's going to be a blow for them at that part of the season. So there would be the obvious ones to go down. But because I know Andy Myler quite well, I'd like to see him have a good impact on the Premier Division, because he's a good fella. Okay,
so Conan, in a word, who is going to win the title?
Shamrock Rovers.
Alan?
Shamrock Rovers.
Very predictable, lads. Okay, do stay with us. We have a lot more to get through, but now it's time to catch up with Johnny Ward, who's out and about at the league launch.
Yeah, we're continuing the derby theme, the Northwest derby this time, and it's kind of Northwest weather. It's absolutely Baltic this morning. Rory Higgins and Ollie Horgan know all about that. Ollie Horgan, it's another season at Finn Harps, another season where you have to, I guess, defy what people think of you, stay up and surprise a lot of people along the way.
Yeah, I hope you're right, Johnny, but it doesn't get any easier, and with the turnover of players that we've had, it's probably the hardest task that we've ever had, and it hasn't been easy in any years. But look, we probably know, we don't know anything different than that, and we'll see what happens,
Yeah, this season, as you mentioned, the standard seems to be extremely high in the league.
Yeah, it's always high, even in the bad old days when we started it was high, but now it's, they've pushed up a level, and, like the likes of Rory with Derry have pushed up a notch as well, and unfortunately we lost probably 11 out of 18 of the panel, and it's very difficult to replace 1 or 2 of them, to remain 11 of them, but that's what it is, that's the battle and the challenge that we have, and look, thank God we're still in the Premier Division to talk about it, Johnny,
Is it fair to say it was the best football you've played in your time at Finn Harps last season?
Look, I mean, that's probably, a compliment to the lads that were there last year. The majority of them have gone. It's probably an insult to the lads that got us there and kept us there over the years, and they were proper men, but we need men like them this year coming, and it'll be difficult without doubt. Probably the most difficult challenge that we've had in my time, let alone before that.
Especially with all the money Higgins has at Derry City.
Yeah, to be fair to Rory, he's after
Sterling or Euro?
No, the Sterling there. No, to be fair to Rory, he's very helpful, and he bought me a cup of coffee in there, which was marvellous, But anyway,
pay for it, did you?
No, it's free.
Yeah, there's nothing free about the expectations in Derry this season. Whether you like it or not, you've a guy and Philip who's obviously put money behind you. You've developed what looks like a serious squad.
Well, I mean, regardless of Philip selling his business in recent times, he's always been a very successful businessman, so it's never ever changed. The plan from when I took the job, the now has always remained the same, and we're delighted that we've got a lot of targets that we set out to get. But people are talking about us being challengers. We finished 24 points behind Shamrock Rovers last year.
You're borrowing from the Ollie Horgan playbook here now.
There's a lot of clubs and there's a lot of very, very good squads. We've assembled a good squad. We finished 24 points behind Shamrock Rovers, and regardless of who we've brought in or what we've done, that is an unbelievable amount of points they make up. So our target this year again is to try and consolidate in a European spot, and anything else is a bonus.
One of the images I think of the off season was people queuing at the Brandywell. The Mark Farren stand sold out that night in terms of season tickets. There's an unbelievable buzz behind you this season.
Well, it's important, and I think the supporters are able to identify with the players that we have. We've brought local players back, and any successful good Derry team over the years has always had a real core of local players, and we have a good amount of them this year, and that's really important for the city, and we want to give our supporters something to be proud of.
And of course, Rory Higgins' brilliant start as Derry manager was punctured when this man went up to the Brandywell. I don't think there were crowds at the time and got a 2-1 win. Would you have any advice to a young man going into management like the fella beside me here?
No, I think Rory's the man giving out the advice, and I'll be talking to him in a while to learn how he's done it. Look,
some talent this season.
Most certainly, yeah. Look, he did a great job last year when he came in. Shortly after the start of the season, they achieved the European spot without what he've brought in, and like obviously there will be huge expectation with Rory. He'll be the first man to say that to you. And look, we wish them the best, except maybe the games that they play against us, because we'll find the gap between us and them. Maybe it is widened, and there's no point pretending it didn't. We tried to bridge that gap over the years, and we did to a certain degree. But with what Rory is shaking in, and maybe what we have lost, there is a gap there. And look, we can only try and prepare and hope with a little bit of luck on the day to see can we get anything out of the derbies against them. But it's great for us to be still in the division, to be talking about that with the supporters at both ends, and long may that continue.
Just finally as well, Higgs, you brought Will Patching back to Derry City. Obviously you brought McElhinney, you brought Duffy back. What's the buzz like in the dressing room?
There's a good spirit there, and I brought in a lot of players that I knew and worked with, so I knew what sort of character we've got, so they've fitted in seamlessly as I would have expected. The two that I didn't know personally were Brian Maher and Brandon Kavanagh, two absolutely brilliant lads, really good young talents, and what was important is that we wanted to bring in experience, but we also wanted to bring in a few younger lads, because we want this plan to be over a longer period of time, and not instant success isn't the be all and end all. We want to build the club over a period of time. And
finally he brought in Alan Reynolds as well, as if there wasn't enough crack in the Brandywell.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, Rennie has a huge amount of experience in that, and like his track record goes, without saying that. He got to strengthen on and off the pitch, and that's what Rory has done. We've lost both, on and off the pitch. We've lost players and people in all positions, and it's difficult to replace them at our level. And I'd say even Rory probably found it difficult at his level, which is a couple of steps ahead. But look, as I said, we wish Rory and Rennie the very best, except the 4 games we played them, Johnny.
Yeah, it sounds like you're writing the match programme notes. Actually, we've a manager here who's downplaying expectations for the season, and it's actually not Ollie Horgan, it's Rory Higgins. It's all ahead of us. Yeah, there's a nice defensive shape here. 3 at the back, which is in vogue at the moment. We've Dane Massey on the left. I was going to call you Graham Gartland. Your name's obviously Brian Gartland on the right. All seriousness though, you must be itching to get back playing.
Yeah, don't into it. Like I said somewhere else, it's like a kid after a ball. You never lose the love for it, but it sort of grows when you miss a bit. So it's just great to be back on training pitch, and yeah, hopefully I can get myself in the team and get playing games again. And
the guy to my left, your former teammate, didn't have a bad season last season.
No, he had a good one, especially deputising a centre half. See,
when he was centre mid, he was like playing like Pirlo at the end of last season.
He got lost a bit. I think he got lost in there.
I thought his technical qualities really shone.
Listen, Dane could put it anywhere on the pitch, and he do a good job. Obviously, I've played with him for years, and he's got great qualities. But yeah, maybe that was a step too far.
Yeah, what's your take on that actually?
I enjoyed it. Centre mid, I see myself in there hopefully this year as well, so we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, he won't be playing for Drogheda this season anyway, but he didn't have a bad season in the end.
No, we've done well. Look, it was the lads got promoted there the year before, and it was kind of a drop in the deep end for some of the young lads, so they've done well, finished strong and a good year.
And you've Kev Doherty and Dara Doyle in now, obviously a lot of new players.
Yeah, good few new players coming in, and obviously Kev's enthusiastic now to get going, and Dara, right hand man as well, he's been excellent with us. So yeah, look, we're all chomping at the bit to get going.
I don't know if you were watching the rugby last Saturday, but we're in a bit of a split dressing room with all the Welsh lads that you brought in, and a really new dressing room this season, land of our fathers and all that.
Yeah, we were meant to have a team day out that day, but we did it the day before, probably just as well.
Probably right, yeah.
Just as well, but we were watching the under-20s game was on in the pub. I think it was 46-0 to Ireland, so they were getting a bit of stick.
What have you made of them?
Yeah, firstly, they're great lads. They're good characters. They fit into the dressing room really well, and their work rate is top notch. So that's the first thing. Like, we need to recruit in that in the club there, and that's, you know, they're ticking those boxes, and then the quality is coming out. Like, you were down a goal with Johnny yourself. You saw Joe Adams' goal and finish, and what he offered, and he's brilliant. Dan Williams as well, in the middle, the other Welsh boy, and well, Joe isn't Welsh, but Nathan in goal as well. You know, they're improving all the time. They're showing their qualities. They're abundant in quality. So it's up to us to give them the environment to express themselves and show that.
Stephen O'Donnell's come in as part of the management team. You've obviously great experience with him, playing with him. Was it always obvious that he'd make a good manager, of which he did at Pats?
Yeah, he's just that character. We all know about his quality as a player, but I suppose, and you would know if you were at games, you'd hear him on the pitch, you'd hear him talk and orchestrate. He knows the game inside out. I love his philosophy, how he thinks about the game, and always looking to improve, and he's always been a leader. So yeah, he's always had those qualities that I always thought he'd be on to be a manager and be a successful manager.
Are you enjoying it as much as you ever did, Dane?
Yeah, I'm loving it, loving the new role I have at the club.
It's centre made, is it?
No,
yeah, missing Garts.
Yeah, Conor Hoy's in there, the chairman now. He's bringing a lot of ideas to the club, and he's an enthusiastic manager, as I said, with Kevin. And yeah, look, the club's in a great position. There's a lot of young players with great talent, and it's a good time to be at the club.
What about the Dragons Den man over here taking on a life outside of football with his new food business and everything?
I know, we meet up for a coffee now and he's trying to sell me something. But
Del Boy over here.
Trying to get him work out for me, actually.
Yeah, probably will,
yeah. That's Brian though, he keeps himself busy and always has done. You'll never see Brian sitting at home doing nothing anyway.
Yeah. And just in terms of the football as well this season, the standard looks to be off the charts in terms of the Premier Division. Yeah,
it's going to be a competitive league this year, hopefully, and yeah, there's going to be a lot of teams up there. Like, you have the likes of Pats finishing second and winning the cup. I'm sure they'll want to have a big push now this year. And then, you know, Derry with the budget now, the so-called big budget. But, no, it's going to be interesting, and hopefully it plays out well.
Dane Massey, the face of Nude going forward, do you think?
I don't know, we'll see. We have to get him to try them first. You know, he's a hard man to get to do anything. But
still going to play football for a while yet.
Listen, football comes first. That's always it. That's just something in the background, and yeah, it's more investment than, you know, football's my day-to-day job and gets full commitment. But yeah, like you talk about the league there, I'm excited for it this year because we were only having a coffee there and talk about it, and how Derry obviously have a big budget behind them and their signings have been quality. So they're looking to be up there and push Rovers, who everyone's probably expecting to win the league. They can't do it again. You've got Pats, who second in cup, and you know their budget's obviously increased with their signings. Bows as well, kicking on, budget increased, and Sligo in Europe, so they've great structures in the club there, so really competitive and up there in the top half of the table. So with that comes pressure onto those clubs, but it's going to be good for the league because it's going to be really competitive.
All the camera lads have been moaning about how cold it is this morning. I wouldn't say it's anything to St. Petersburg when you were over there.
No, well, you're in a jacket, Johnny, so you mightn't be too bad.
You were in short sleeves that day, I think.
No, I don't know, far from it. I had all the Under Armour on, but yeah, no, I think it was -8 or 9, wasn't it? That was a crazy weather, but yeah, look, it has to be done, this, doesn't it?
Great memories from Dane, and obviously, what's your first name again? Brian Gartland, yeah, head of the Louth Derby and the Joe Malone Cup, obviously, on Friday night, and the League of Ireland season ahead.
Right, now it's time to get stuck into the First Division. Conan, it's always so hard to predict what's going to happen in the First Division. But one thing we do know is that Waterford have made a great signing, and it's not the players that we're talking about this time, it's the manager, Ian Morris.
Yeah, it was a very shrewd move to bring in Ian Morris. He's been in this is his third year managing in the First Division, so he's gone for 3 in a row, 3 titles. He's won 2 with Shelbourne already, and now he's picked up the reins at Waterford. He's inherited a very, very good squad. He's signed the majority of the players that were at in the Premier Division last year, and he's taken them back. Like some really, really good players: Brian Murphy, Phoenix Patterson, Eddie Nolan, and Anthony Wordsworth. 4 top players. So it'll be very, very interesting to see how they do. I think that their key signing though is the former Shelbourne player Yassine El Naya, absolutely superstar. And I think he's going to do really, really well in the first division with Waterford this year.
Superstar. He's coming up with some comments there.
Just wait. I'm telling you, he'll be top scorer in this division.
All Alan is worried about is, are they better than him when he was that age? That's it. Alan, though it does seem like Ian Morris has got it all going in the right direction anyway. He's managed to keep the players that he needed to keep and add new ones too. Yeah,
I would agree totally with Conan, especially those experienced ones like Wordsworth, Nolan, Phoenix Patterson, very exciting player last year. And bar, I suppose, the upheaval around Mark Bircham and what had happened at the end of the season, they probably would have stayed in the Premier Division, Marie. I think that was the main reason that they went down, because of obviously we all know the problems towards the end coming up to the playoff game. So Ian has obviously taken over, very good manager, huge experience in terms of getting a team obviously to win, not just to win the league, but to get them promoted back into the Premier Division. And also the biggest one for me, and I'm going to make the bold statement this time, Conan mentioned Alan Manis being the best keeper in the league. Brian Murphy is the best goalkeeper in the country. For me, he's absolutely outstanding, and the fact that they've held on to him on top of all the other experience around that as well. I know he's probably at the latter end of his career, but he looks after him so well, looks after himself so well, and he's had a brilliant career, Brian Murphy. The fact that they have him in goals as well and such a solid foundation to build from on top of the other bit of quality, I think they're the favourites, and rightly so, and I'd be very surprised if they don't win the league, to be honest.
I was expecting a bolder statement than that.
Well,
you can have that one. So Conan, we're talking about squads and the difficulty of trying to keep them and to add to them. When you look at what Tommy Barrett did last year with Treaty, he pretty much got a squad together overnight and arguably got the best out of them. Will he be able to do the same this season, do you think?
Knowing Tommy the way I do, Marie, I think he'll be just looking at the first game against Wexford. He won't be thinking about last year at all. He's lost 4 players to full-time teams. I think that speaks volumes for the success that they have had. He's brought in some very, very good players. Denzel Fernandez has come in from Shelbourne. I think a very, very key sign is Colin Conroy, the under-17 league winner at Bohemians a couple of years ago, box-to-box midfielder, and he's starting really, really well in pre-season. So, yeah, they've lost a couple of players. Sean McSweeney's a big loss. He's gone to Shelbourne. He created a lot of things for Treaty in their attacking lines. But Enda Curran has gone in, and he's going to be hoping to get a couple of goals this year.
It's not easy to get up, Alan, as a lot of them will have found out. And John Caulfield with Galway will probably be one that will maybe have some regrets from last season. Just looking at his setup, Lisa Fallon is gone now. Will he be under a little bit of pressure, do you think, to try and get up?
Yeah, of course, I think, and John will bring that pressure on himself. Obviously, he was so successful at Cork City, as we all know, when he was manager there. So he will, I suppose, put that expectation on himself and the demands on the players. They came close last year, but they were always really at arm's length from Shelbourne. You never really felt as though they were really going to maybe not only catch up with them but overtake them. Shelbourne were always in the prime position throughout the whole season. So I think this year there's probably a little bit more expectation because there's a decent budget in Galway. As you say, they're looking to do things properly and get themselves promoted as quickly as possible because they do see themselves as a top flight club and with the experience that John brings as well. But I would even go back to the comment there that Conan was making just about Tommy Barrett and Treaty. I think Tommy was arguably the manager of the year last year. What he achieved in no time whatsoever in assembling a squad and then getting them to the playoffs as well was remarkable. There'll also be expectation on them as well this year, Marie. So it's quite competitive at the top. Even though I have Waterford down as the favourites and firm favourites, I think Galway, Treaty, obviously there's no UCD this year, Longford have dropped down. I don't see Longford challenging those three, to be honest with you. I thought Longford were a major disappointment in the Premier Division last year, and I know it's a big step up, it's a big gulf, but there were zero competition for any of the teams last year throughout the whole season. And obviously they have a new manager in Gary Cronin, but I just think they're the three. Waterford the firm favourites. The expectation will come obviously on Galway and Treaty, and I think they'll be the main contenders to Waterford.
Well, Tommy will have shown what can be done in Treaty, and no doubt somebody like Gary Cronin coming in with Longford will be looking at what Tommy was able to do last year and will give him confidence that things can be achieved, that progress can be made. Absolutely, and you could argue that they have a nearly stronger squad in the First Division than they did in the Premier Division last season. He's brought in some players as well that are firm fan favourites down at Bishopsgate. Carl Chambers has come back, Sam Verdon has re-signed as well. So, and there's a couple of very good young players down there. Ben Lynch, one such example, wonderful left foot.
and he's going to try and make his mark this season. But they have lost a couple of players in A. Dervin as well. Dean Zambra, their experience is gone, and we haven't mentioned Bray. I honest to God think that Bray will win the league. I think that they'll win
the league.
I think they'll win the league. I think
some statements coming out
We'll be
today.
playing all this back to you now, Conan.
I think we should just
few months.
listen to the squad that they have. They have Conor Clifford, Oscar Brennan, Callum Thompson, 3 midfield players. They have Rob Manley that has scored all the goals in the first division for Cabinteely back a couple of years ago. Curtis Byrne is in the squad. They've brought Hughie Douglas back in as well. Steve McGuinness has resigned from Bohemians. They've combined the two squads of Bray and Cabinteely, but what also they've done is they've brought in really, really good quality as well. Kieran Marty Waters is another that's going to be a huge player for them as well. So I think if Pat Devlin starts the season really, really well and they get a couple of wins, we saw before how Cabinteely can do that. Once they start, they don't seem to stop.
Alan, are you a bit sceptical of that?
Is that Bray going to win the league or Cabinteely going to win the league?
We don't have a show long enough to get into that.
No, Bray wonders.
Yeah, I would be sceptical about that. But as Conan outlines, there's some good quality players there. I don't agree with that. Longford have a better squad. You've lost O'Driscoll at the back, centre half, A. Dervin, Zambra, Williams as well. So I think Longford, as I say, I can't see them contending. I actually think Bray would be better than Longford, to be honest with you, but I still think Waterford are the firm favourites for that, with Galway and Treaty as the main contenders. Conan does make a point, fair enough, about the quality that Bray have, but I just can't see them win the league, to be honest with you, Marie.
What about Cork City? It's always strange when we're having conversations and we're nearly finished the first division chat and we haven't mentioned them, such a big club.
Look, they didn't have a great season last year. Colin Healy was a bit like Stephen O'Donnell did in his first year. Patsy was a bit of a rebuild, but Cork City are going to be very, very fit this year. They've signed really, really well. They've brought James Dooney in from Athlone, Dylan McGlade. They have Keane Murphy up front, who's very, very quick and score goals. They've brought in Rory Keating from Cork City as well. And they also brought in some experience, Ali Gilchrist and Kevin O'Connor, who won the first division with Shelburne last year as well. Like Mark McNulty is still between the sticks, as well as Jimmy Corcoran, who they brought in from Wexford. So they've signed some brilliant players. Bit of unfortunate news about Gordon Walker breaking his leg in pre-season, so that's going to be they need to find a right back before the start of the season. But Cork I think are going to be challenging. I don't think they'll win the league, but I think they could be in a shot for the playoffs.
Yeah, I'd agree with that, Marie. I think they finished the season quite strong last year, Cork City. Colin Healy, obviously huge experience, as we know, and there's a lot of promising up-and-coming players, shall we say, that might surprise a few this year. So I definitely think, and I think that's the beauty of the first division as well, Marie, with the playoff system, that you can obviously feel that there's always an incentive to maybe you never feel as though the season is kind of just going to play out or dwindle away from you. There's always that incentive that you can get close, and we obviously saw with UCD, who finished third in the league last year, and they went on to get promoted. So it'll be really interesting to see how Cork City do this year. But again, going back to the chat maybe about Bray and Longford, I think Cork could surprise a few this year. So even though I have my firm favourites and a couple of contenders, I think Cork could be in the mix for the playoffs and might surprise a few this year.
So who's going to struggle then, Conan? So it's like nearly everybody's going to do well. They can't.
It's very competitive.
It is very competitive. I disagree with Alan in the sense I don't think that Treaty will be challenging this season. I think that they did really, really well last year. They've lost a lot of players. They've lost Clyde O'Connell. They've lost Anthony O'Donnell.
Ty Ryan, the goalkeeper as well.
Ty Ryan as well. So they brought in Jack Brady from Shelburne. That was a very, very good signing, and Joe Gorman. But I think the two teams that will struggle the most will be Athlone Town and Cove Ramblers. I don't think Wexford are going to be down there, if I'm being totally honest. I think that they've signed really, really well, especially in the attacking third, bringing in Dinny Corcoran and Aaron Dobbs. They lost Jack Moylan to Shelburne, unfortunately. I know he was on loan, but he was absolutely brilliant in the first division last season, and he's going to be a useful addition to Shelburne. But I just think Athlone Town and Cove Ramblers are going to really struggle this year.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing with Wexford as well, young coach, and obviously there's a lot of the young coaches, young up and coming managers dotted around both divisions. But I think Ian Ryan looks as though he has all the capabilities of maybe going on and managing at a higher level, and that's no disrespect to Wexford. He's done a really good job since he's come in, and I would agree with Conan, maybe like Cork, who we're saying is a surprise package. Maybe Wexford might be on the up, just with him in charge. Lorcan Fitzgerald has huge experience as well. The fact that they're able to bring in the likes of Dinny Corcoran up front as well, and he will add experience to the younger players. So I think Ian is definitely worth to mention, but also the likes of Cove and Athlone, I think, it's probably more of the same for them down the bottom. But I think the first division overall is very, very competitive, and I think we'll be in for an exciting division.
Okay, so who will finish top then, Conan?
Well, Bray Wanderers.
Alan?
Can we have a little bet here now while we're here? Waterford for me, Marie.
Okay, lads, thank you so much for coming in. So much to look forward to over the coming months. Really appreciate it. We're not done yet, though. It's time to check back in with Johnny Ward, who's out and about at the league launch.
Thanks very much, Marie. Now, I would think it's probably fair to say Treaty United were one of the surprise packages of the First Division last season. Had a brilliant season and pushed for promotion into the Premier Division and gone out quite late on in the playoffs. Jack Brady, that brings expectation for this season.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think our approach is going to be very similar to the way the boys handled it last year. I think we obviously have a smaller budget than a lot of the teams. Trying to get as many players as we can in from different parts of the country has been difficult, obviously, in pre-season, but we put together a really good squad, and I think we'll hopefully get similar results to we did last year, and obviously push on. Hopefully, push for promotion is what the ultimate aim of the club is going forward. Whether we achieve that this year or next year and coming years, it is fair to say that the club is growing very, very well, but also they're very, very keen to take it slowly. So I think it is something that the club are conscious of to move forward positively, but also to try and manage expectations is a massively important part of what the club is trying to do. You have a huge section of the women's section is out well, is doing really, really well, and obviously senior men were impressive last year, and you have a really good 19s team coming up as well in the men's section. So I think as an overall the club is growing, but they're not putting too many expectations on us.
You talk a good game.
Yeah, well, I suppose it's important to just to look at where we are really. I'm not overly concerned with what other clubs and what other media outlets are putting pressure on us.
Fair enough.
So I don't think we're going to be put under any major pressure expectation wise, but we do have a really good squad and we're going to go out and do our best really.
Some buzz back in the Markets field last season and big crowds as well.
Yeah, brilliant, and I think that was something that they were crying out for. Speaking to some of the supporters and obviously and the fans around the city, senior soccer is hugely important there. And obviously after Limerick FC left the league, I suppose there was a lull there for a year where there was only junior soccer, and obviously that's huge in Limerick as well. But I think one of the most important parts of getting senior soccer back in was for the fans and how important it is for the actual city itself.
There was talk as well you were going to rename yourselves Treaty Tribesmen. You've signed the many from Galway this year.
We have a couple of boys travelling, yeah. So obviously we have me, Joe Gorman, Dean George travelling from Dublin. You have Mark Ludden, Conor Melody, Enda Curran and Conor Wynn travelling from Galway, and obviously you have Denzel Fernandez and Charlie Fleming travelling from Cork. So the rest of the boys are boys from Limerick themselves. So I think that is the problem with a regionalised club. Obviously you have to get boys to travel, and because of the facilities we don't have a team house. We don't, as we said, we have a smaller budget than other teams. So we have good honest lads who don't mind doing the travelling, and hopefully we'll be able to kind of push on this year with that bigger squad.
For a goalie, you're not the tallest.
Yeah, look, I can jump then.
You can jump higher than me anyway. That's Jack Brady, Treaty United, another big team, I would imagine, going for promotion in the First Division this season. Thanks, Jack.
Thanks very much, lads.
Doesn't really feel like the sunny southeast this morning, but it's Wexford and Waterford beside me here. Ian Morris, Waterford's new manager. You have to say it was a fairly short off season because there was so much crack about managerial movements, and all of a sudden we're here.
Yeah, I only took the job Christmas week as well, so it was literally straight in, players signed and into pre-season fairly quickly. So there's been no time to sit back and relax.
Yeah, is it fair to say that Waterford coming back into the First Division wasn't exactly welcomed by Galway fans like me and maybe Wexford fans, just adding a bit of spice to it?
Yeah, no, they certainly add to it. Great squad that they have there, and they've got the master of the First Division with them now, so it's basically won. It's over now already.
Not even sure I introduced you there, of course. Ian Ryan, you don't need any introduction at this stage after last season.
No, I definitely need the introduction, yeah. But yeah, last season went okay. Hoping to improve on that. We got a good squad together, so looking to see where it goes.
I've been saying this for a while, Ian Morris, but the First Division is where it's at this season. There are going to be some really good games.
Yeah, it's strong. You can see by the squads, the managers, everything is geared up to be a really, really exciting division. And I think everyone's looking at pre-season, and I don't think you can take too much out of it. Once the lights are on and the league starts, it'll be a different ball game altogether. So it's going to be exciting. I think we're counting down the days now till next Friday.
I know the season ended badly for Waterford, but the crowds that were back in the RSC last season, you must be looking forward to that.
Absolutely, and we even seen it in our pre-season games, both home and away. We've had massive travel and support away, and then the RSC is filling up as well. So we're hoping when we welcome Bray on the 25th that we'll have a packed house.
And a lot of people suggesting that Wexford will be dark horses, possibly even to challenge for the championship this season. Could that be a little bit avaricious, or what are you thinking?
Yeah, it might be a little ambitious, but yeah, listen, we're no different than everyone else. The pre-season gives you hope, and you always have that hope, and we've improved the squad. We're looking to challenge up around the top end. If we can get into the playoffs, we'd be delighted.
Yeah, and a lot of chat about young managers in the Premier Division. 2 young managers in the First Division beside me as well. Some wily old foxes like John Caulfield and Pat Devlin. It's going to be a bit of spice to the sidelines, I think, this year.
There is. It'll be lively, yeah. But everyone just wants to win for their club, and everyone has that ambition. And I think everyone, when you look at the investment and the quality of the squads within the division, I think everyone will have an eye on competing really at the top end. So it's going to be really, really exciting. I can't wait to get going.
Yeah, we have to move the First Division lads on so the Premier Division lads can come in obviously later on. But all joking aside, what's it like being here and not being part of Shells, because it was such a part of your life for the last while?
Yeah, look, I had a bit of time to adjust before going into Waterford, so it was a good time for me to reflect and to recharge slightly as much as you can. And get straight back into it. But as soon as you're in, your mindset just changes and you get ready to go again. So everything down in Waterford is geared up. The facilities, the players, the squad, the staff, everyone around the club is excited for this year, and hopefully we can put things right.
What is your aspiration?
I want to get up, I want to get promoted.
Yeah, and I guess that's yours as well.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what we're there for. We want to compete. Probably a more realistic route to us will probably be, challenge through the playoffs route, and we'll see where that goes. And you look at the likes of Treaty last year that give us inspiration to go and do what they did, and even UCD to go up. As the First Division team against a good Premier Division side, it gives people hope, and that's what we'll aim for.
And big trips ahead as well to the likes of Galway, to Eamon Park, to Turner's Cross. Big crowds expected, big sales and season tickets, first and Premier Division this season.
Yeah, it's fantastic to see. There's real momentum behind the league, and when the atmospheres are, when the crowds are up and the atmosphere is electric, it drives the game on. I think the tempo and the quality starts to lift as well. So it all goes hand in hand, and it's gearing up to be really good.
Who wins the Premier Division?
Say Rovers, but I think Derry will be knocking on the door.
We presume you mean Shamrock Rovers.
Shamrock Rovers.
You?
Shamrock Rovers.
With Derry knocking on the door. Ian Morris and Ian Ryan here at the SSE Airtricity launch this morning.
It's nice to see Ryan wearing this confirmation jumper as well.
Yeah, you wouldn't want to get it dirty, would you?
No, it's a bad choice.
Keep the pieces away, don't worry lads. I wouldn't eat that stuff anyway.
Pepperoni on the way for Ian Ryan.
Now our appetites have been well and truly whetted for the season ahead. It's time now to turn our attention to the Women's National League, and I'm delighted to say that Ruth Fahey and Rebecca Cray are with me to look ahead to what could be in store for us in the 2022 season. Ruth, before we do that though, we had such an exciting end to the season last year, but there was a lot of highs throughout. What was your highlight?
I think as a Galway girl, without doubt, it had to be the last game of the season. I'm sure Rebecca will probably agree with that from different perspectives. But for us, we had Galway had a really, really tough start to the 2021 season. Really tough opening couple of games, but managed to turn around the summer, and then that final game was just incredible. We actually went down 2-0 to Peamount away, managed to come back and win 5-2 and hand the trophy to your good self, so you can buy me pints later. But yeah, it was amazing because it's not something we'd ever done before. We've gone and kind of beaten Peamount so comprehensively like that. Not only did we come back from 2-0 down, which again probably not in our history, but also scored some incredible goals and managed to finish the season on a massive high, and that will take the club really positively into the next season.
And you gave everybody an awful lot of excitement that weekend as well. Rebecca, surely yours was the title run-in, the season run-in.
Yeah, most definitely. I think I had 2 great moments that day. Was obviously Galway beating Peamount 5-2 and ourselves lifting the trophy, which was so unexpected. I think we had a great run-in, thankfully. About 5 games in a row that we won after our bad loss of 5-0 to Peamount. So yeah, it was a really, really unexpected day. Very grateful to Galway and the girls, and they always are a very, very tough team to play against, especially down there. But they came through in the end, and yeah, we had a great old day and night.
So when a team does something unexpected, and I guess, look, at the end of the day, there was so much that had to go the right way for Shelbourne to take that title, but they did it. What can they take away from that? Like, what happens now next season, do you think, Ruth?
Well, I actually think for Shelbourne, there were some really important moments throughout last season that stand out to me. I think about that last minute winner against Peamount, probably Noelle Murray, and Bowes as well. I think it was Pearl Slattery's literally last kick of the game, goal to make it 3-2. I remember watching that on LOI TV and thinking, there's something about this, because not only did it happen once, it happened a couple of times. So that showed big character in a squad that had lost huge players to, overseas that season. So those little moments, they may seem to pass within the 24 hours, but they don't. They stay with you. And so it wasn't just kind of the final run-in. It really had gone back to the months previous to that. And I think, and then that's, in that excitement, Shelbourne not only won the league, but they qualified for Europe this season. And I'm really excited to see how they do. And that'll be a huge part of the preparation, I'd imagine, for this season.
Because you can take confidence and momentum into the season as well.
Yeah, 100%. Like, going off those results that we were getting throughout the season, I think we kind of thought amongst ourselves quietly, this could be the year, after, I think, 5 years of not winning the league. We kind of looking around at each other, with a quiet confidence, I'd like to say. We never thought to ourselves, right, this is it. But I think after the 5-0 loss to Peamount, that was a bit of a kickback, and we kind of, it brought us back down to earth, let's just say. And I think it gave us that added bit of grit that, look, we're going to have to dig deep to go and win this. And look, thankfully we focused on ourselves and took it to the end. And look, hopefully it's a marker for going forward.
So Ruth, where does that leave everybody else? Do we have Shelbourne and a chasing pack with Peamount and Wexford in it maybe, or are they all pretty equal heading into the new season?
Yeah. For all the credit I'll give to Shells, I wouldn't put it in that sense. It's them ahead and a chasing pack. I think it's going to be super interesting this year, because I really do believe, and I touch what I've said this before, I don't think it's going to be an easy top three. I don't think that gap is going to be as big. And I say that for two reasons. I think Wexford will be very strong, very, very strong this year. I think they'll be even hungrier than ever, because they didn't win the league and they let it slip at the end, and they're used to winning. They're winners down there. Peamount, for those are saying they're struggling a little bit. Again, lost 2 big players last season overseas. But you'll never struggle when you have a team that comprises Karen Duggan, Anya Gorman, Steph Roach and Grace Murray, who's come in as well. Lauren Kelly, who I think is going to get better and better. Obviously Shells, but then there's DLR, there's Bowes and there's Galway. And we have to really think about what they're doing in these clubs, because DLR were very good last year. They were very good, and I thought they were building, and they've made some amazing signings over the past couple of weeks and months, and quite early on I was keeping an eye, and they were straight into recruitment, right from the moment the last game was over. They brought in Lynn Craven, Sophie Waters, Sarah McKevitt, who I think is a massive talent in the league, Mia Dodd as well. These are all not just starting 11 players, like these are key players. So they're going to be, can't wait to see how they're going to go. Galway, obviously, for me, there's some huge change in terms of a new manager. Alan Murphy's come in. I think he's going to make massive impact there. He already has unbelievably professional, modern, ambitious, driven, very high standards, very demanding, exactly what the club needs. So I think that'll be brilliant. And then Bowes are strong as well, and signing the likes of Sinead Taylor. So I don't think it'll be anyway 1 ahead or 3 ahead. I think it's going to be a lot more competitive this season.
And Rebecca, that's what people want. That's what players want, fans want, managers want, everybody involved in the league. They want it to be competitive across the board, not have 1 or 2 or 3 out at front. They want the ones coming behind to be closing that gap and challenging the ones ahead.
100%. Like, you only have to look at the last few years. People will look and say, yeah, Shells, Wexford, Peamount, all those kind of teams. But most recently, DLR have come back, and their recruitment has been immense. I look at the league, I think last year between 3rd and 4th it was a 16-point gap. I don't think it's going to be like that this year. We mentioned Sinead Taylor. She's going to bring a wealth of experience to Bowes. They have a very young setup there, but again they've got players like Gabby Brophy coming through. Izzy Chambers is another young kid that's meant to be a really, really good talent. You know, and I think they're going to all be chomping at the bit and chasing shells for this season.
Just while we are talking about the developments of the league, seeing Sligo Rovers added to it this year, I think everybody's enjoying watching them, seeing them being part of the men's club, the recruitment, the media, they're getting the promotion. Again, it can only benefit.
Yeah, it's massive. I think, you know, since Castlebar Celtic fell away, there's been a huge gap there in terms of the northwest, because that catchment area, when you think of Donegal, Sligo, you know, parts of Mayo as well, traditionally have been, you know, strongholds in terms of producing the talent that has gone on to play both Women's National League and play abroad as well. So the time has come, and we've been waiting for a while, and it's not easy to start up a team and enter the National League. It's going to take, like, let's be honest, it's going to take a couple of years for Sligo to really get their foot in there. But I think from all accounts that they're doing things right. They seem to have good support from the men's side, which is really important. Obviously, in your first season in the league, it's a new pasture for them. But they've got Emma Hansberry in there. She's going to bring so much experience. I imagine although she's playing, that she'll kind of probably hold the coaching responsibility a little bit as well, and she'll be a very important mentor to the younger players. Another player is Lauren Bowles as well, formerly Castlebar Celtic, central midfielder, really strong. So there's players there, but these are experienced players, but maybe don't have the experience in the National League. But just give them time. But for the league, it's super important, and it's a really positive turning point. Yeah.
Yeah, you'd have to imagine that it will take a little bit of time, but they do have the right building blocks in place and so much positive noise around them as well, which is just brilliant for the league in general. I'm not sure if this is good or not for the league, Rebecca, but a lot of players have left as well over the last few months, and it's brilliant to see them going to different clubs, big clubs in Scotland, in England, and spreading their wings and getting their opportunities and taking their opportunities. And while it is difficult to see them leave, at the same time, it does provide opportunities for other people to step up too.
Yeah, most definitely. Like, I think this season is going to be a season of the younger kids coming through. Predominantly, like, across the board, you know, it's kind of been the older generation, let's just say, or more experienced players that have held the fort in a lot of the, I'd say, the top three or whatever you want to call it. But yeah, like, losing the girls and you know, that throughout the league, it does show there are obviously great opportunities further afield, but this is a great league, and I think, you know, until we do become maybe semi-professional, we might still, you know, have girls leaving the league, unfortunately. But again, it's going to be a positive in underage girls coming through to say, right, we can step up to the plate here, 16, 17-year-olds, and there's plenty of them throughout the league. And I think, as I said, that'll be evident this year.
That is the case as well. We do have the numbers now starting to play the games, and we're seeing the better structures coming through and the better pathways for them, and they know that, okay, we might not have a semi-professional league here. Hopefully we will in time, but there are opportunities, and if they do get in with the club here and make their way, that they can go on to have professional careers, which is just really good to see.
Yeah, definitely, and that's probably a testament to the introduction of the underage leagues. Again, I'll use Galway as the example. We had huge success at under 17, and these players are now coming through at senior level, which is super important. Our own under 19s won the double last year. That can be difficult for some clubs. I know when you've got players who are playing under 19s and they need to be in the senior squad, but also when you look at the positives and see that experience they gain winning at 19s and bring that into the senior team, it's huge. And there's such a wealth of unbelievable young talent throughout the league. Even I'm just thinking, Jenna Slattery recently announced with Galway. I think of Myrne Devaney with that loan. Many clubs, Galway included, were mad to sign her. There's a huge coup for them to hold on to her. She's going to go on and have a great future, no doubt about it. Jessie Stapleton in Shelburne is just quality. Yeah. Abby Larkin.
Erin Fildara, is it, at Peamount?
Yeah, like just everywhere. There's so many young players. Ella Malloy, Evan Clancy. These are names that are going to hopefully be around for years to come. As you say, there's always a lure of professional football abroad, but as we all saw with the strategy published yesterday, there's huge plans in place here for the Women's National League, and hopefully that'll serve to hold these players within our country in however way that takes.
And the really good thing about most of the women that you named there is that they're already familiar names to us, because we're seeing more of them, Rebecca. We're hearing more about them. We're getting to watch them on television. We're getting to see their names on different social media outlets. So things are starting to really improve from that point of view. And even today here, having the launch and being central to it, these are all big steps in the right direction.
Yeah, huge. We talked briefly earlier that, having the likes of, say, the men's and women's teams, Sligo Rovers now falling under the same socials, Shelbourne, Bohemians. Obviously the girls are going to be playing in Dalymount Park this year as well. So those little tweaks are going to make a huge difference, and we have seen that over the course of last season. The coverage that we seen, especially in the last day. I heard there was a split screens, going from Green Oak over to Talca Park, and it creates that bit of excitement, and I think we need to push forward with that this year. You go back to the whole can't see, can't beat thing. Once we have visuals on players in this country, and keep pushing it media-wise, it's going to be major, and it's going to help us massively.
Yeah, really will, Ruth. And I'd say when you think of when you started and look at where things are now, it's probably hard to believe. And even looking ahead now to what could possibly happen in maybe the next decade, it's hard not to be excited about it.
Yeah, exactly. And I think often, you can easily fall victim to thinking we're not where we want to be, or there's so much we need to do. But when you look at it like that, in terms of that 10-year gap, and that's where we're at. We were at that decade anniversary last year. I remember... I feel very, very old. But that's okay. But then look 10 years ahead, we're going to be...
Exactly.
Okay, so we won't go 10 years ahead. We'll look 10 years back. And, I was playing Castlebar in 2011, and I remember you could barely find a match report, like a written match report. You might have a few, you might not get everything. I remember writing for outlets at that point just to cover some matches. But in terms of streaming, in terms of live television, like, look where we are. And yes, we'd love more, we want more, but we'll get there. So yeah, it's come on leaps and bounds. TG Cahir have been brilliant. That final day production was amazing. Like the production is excellent. The quality is so high. I can't understand Irish, but I can still enjoy watching it. It's fine, and I might advance my skills as well. So yeah, attendances are good. Turner's Cross had a record attendance last season as well. Credit to Cork City down there. So huge progress, and the women's football market is just flying at the moment. There's no reason why anybody would not want to get on board with that.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. All you have to do is go around to any of the academies at the weekend mornings and see all of the little girls doing their stuff. Okay, guys, I know it's probably difficult for both of you to give me a prediction, but I'm still going to ask Ruth.
As in a winner?
Just a winner.
A winner. Oh, do you know what? For many different reasons, we probably don't have time to get into it. I'm going to say Wexford. Yeah, I've thought about that. Wexford. Sorry.
Rebecca, don't be sorry. Okay. But no, I was talking to myself on the way over in the car. Will I say Shells? Will I say... I don't know. It's going to be very, very hard to see or pick, but I think I'm going to stick with my guns and go Shelbourne.
Okay, well, definitely lots to look forward to, and I can't wait for it to begin. Well, we do have a little bit more for you. We have our Women's National League expert, Alana Canan, out at the launch, and she checked in with some of the players. Let's see who she spoke to.
Thanks, Marie. I'm joined now by James O'Callaghan of Peamount United and Noel King from Shelbourne. Lads, looking forward to the WNL 2022 season. Coming into it, Noel, as champions, bit of a different feel to it this time around.
Well, yes, it was great last season. It was an amazing finish to it, as we all know. It was a great advertisement for the game. If we can perform in the same manner this coming season, I'd be looking forward to it's the same success, but it's so difficult. Teams have made so many good positive changes in their own groups, and teams are getting stronger, getting fitter, and it's not going to be easy to retain the championship. It's always difficult because everyone wants to have a go at you, which is quite right. And we just have to make the best of it.
And of course, after the sensational end to last season, now James, of course you were on the wrong side of it this time around, but it brought a lot of eyes to the league and a good finish to the year.
Yeah, it was a fantastic finish for everybody apart from Peamount, I suppose. No, I was loving it. But yeah, no, congratulations to Shelbourne on winning the league last year. They went on a phenomenal run, so they fully deserved it. We were very disappointed ourselves with how it finished, but that's football. So, that's in the past now. We've been working hard in pre-season. We're really focusing, really working hard for the new season coming. It's going to be very difficult. A lot of the teams are strengthened up, including Shelbourne. all the teams. So I don't think it's going to be like a 1, 2, 3 horse race this year at all. I think it's wide open this season coming.
Yeah, the competitive edge is definitely instilled into the league, and I saw recently you guys were on a team bonding trip. You mentioned there's for some new players floating about, but there's also a good team bond still in Peamount.
Well, absolutely. It's you have, because of COVID in the past couple of seasons, you weren't able to really do anything like that. So trying to just get an extra edge maybe and just bring the team that bit closer together, because it's very important you have a close knit team. We did a team while we climbed Lugnaquilla, the second highest mountain in Ireland. So the girls really loved it, even though the weather was atrocious. But it was still part of the fun. So it was really good, yeah.
And we're going to climb the highest mountain in Dublin for our get together.
Just to one up them.
Exactly, yeah.
And how have your pre-season preparations been going, Doug?
Very good, actually. A few new faces in the club. Everybody has to come back and do the hard work, and it's just continuing trying to forget what's happened, though you remember forever, but look and focus on the league, and then obviously the Champions League down the road. So combining the two of them is going to be a problem. But that's football and we love it. The girls love playing. They love every game. They take each one, as the famous saying goes, each one as it comes, and we'll be ready.
As we count down to the kick-off of this year's Women's National League, we're joined by two giants of the league, you could say, Pearl Slattery and Kylie Murphy. So looking forward to this year's league, Pearl. You're looking to replicate last year's successes, I guess.
Yeah, hopefully. Look, every season I think you go in and try win the league or cup. You try win as much as you can. Look, we'll always compete. That's our main aim, to compete every year. And look, we won't get ahead of ourselves as well. It's going to be, last year was very competitive. I think this year is going to be more so. So look, we'll just take it game by game, try win or perform well in every game and see where we end up.
And Kylie, Wexford Youths ensured last year's league went down to the wire. Was there a bit of chatter maybe of you should slow your roll last year in the last game when you were kind of putting in the goals there at the end and it was getting a bit tight?
No, not at all. Just scored that second one she did.
You were thinking, geez, I got
a little tug after the second one to maybe just settle it down a little, that I could spoil the party, but no, not at all. As a Wexford player, Wexford team, we'll never stop till the end. And I mean, it didn't matter much to us, the result. It was great to be involved, I have to say, in the last game. It was serious atmosphere, and to see the Shells girls, their faces and the euphoria that they were feeling was just incredible. But no, we didn't stop, to be fair. We didn't slow down.
Not at all. And then I suppose, was that the best end to the league you've seen in your time? Because it was phenomenal, and even the amount of attention it brought to the league, it was brilliant.
Yeah, it was incredible. Everyone was talking about it. The only thing I could say about it is that I was raging that we weren't actually one of the teams competing for the league. I just thought it was brilliant. It genuinely couldn't have ended better. So it's great, and the more coverage, the more media we get out there, the more people talking about the Women's National League, all the better.
And of course there's a bit of a friendly rivalry here as we go head to head. What's that like, Pearl, for you, kind of knowing a good few players throughout the league and everyone's going towards the one goal of raising the profile of the Women's National League?
Yeah, I think, look, the respect is always there off the pitch, isn't it? And once we go on the pitch, then it's kind of like you forget about that respect and the nicest. We want to win. You want to compete. We're all playing. We all give up so much time. You want to win the game. So there does be rivalry on the pitch, but there's utmost respect off the pitch for everybody involved in the league. There's great people, players, volunteers that are in our league. And look, as you said about the last game, we've tried to promote the league for many years. That was the best promotion it could have got. I think, TG Carr coming in probably thought, Peamount had it tied up, and then the dramatics of it and the split screen and stuff. It was stuff we've never seen, Kylie. We're in the league 8-9 years. It was madness, but it was brilliant. That's the best way to promote a league is, dramatics, all that sort of stuff. And credit to all the clubs. They all played their part in the league being so dramatic. Last minute winners in other games, shock results. That's what you want. You want, competitive league. And as I said, I think this year is going to be the most competitive.
And something I wanted to ask you as well, you could see it at your guys' FAI Cup final last year. There was great support for Shells, and it's great to see kind of the men's fans, typical, coming through and supporting the women's game.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. And look, Air Club, there's been a lot of development there, and it doesn't happen overnight. It's many years, and I think the dramatics though, and the games that were in Talca Park, and other teams having a part to play in that and stuff, only helped. And then we've went from 40 or 50 people to be at Air Games to hundreds now. A lot of Air Ultras you would have seen at the Cup final, the flares and stuff. We've not seen that in Air League, and it's brilliant. And you just hope now, even I think when we played Wexford away, it was a good crowd, good noise. So you're hoping now other clubs can come on board, and that's what you want. You want an atmosphere at the games and stuff like that. So yeah, a big applause to all the fans now, and hopefully we can continue to grow that now.
And Kylie, we touched on it there, the FAI Cup last season. You're looking to go that and maybe one better this year?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, first and foremost, it's the National League. That's what gives you Champions League soccer. So, I mean, for us, that's what we'll be going after first. It feels like it's been a while now since we've won one as well. So we're trying to knock shells off their throne. But yeah, exactly. Same as every year. You just want to pick up as much silverware as you can.
And finally, Pearl, Kylie mentioned it there, the Champions League to come, and the league, and of course the FAI Cup. You're looking forward to this season?
Yeah, it's a big one. Look, there's going to be more league games now with Sligo coming in. You have the cup competition and then Champions League. But look, that's why you give up so much. That's what you win a league for, is to have a season like this and so much to look forward to. And the club will get behind us, the fans, the players will give everything. And look, when it comes to Europe, we just want to represent the league well, and that's all we can hope for. And look, we've the first half of the season to look after first before we can even think about Europe. But yeah, it's an exciting season.
Looking forward to seeing it kick off anyways. Thanks for joining us, guys. Best of luck.
Thanks, Alana. Now it's time to hear from the CEO of the FAI, Jonathan Hill.
So Jonathan, how much did you enjoy the Women's National League and the League of Ireland experience last season?
Yeah, brilliant. I think I ended up going to around 16 of the different grounds. In relation to the Women's National League, particularly memorable was that final night when the league title was decided. I was in Peamount, expecting, I think, to a degree, to be handing over a trophy that night, but in the end, because of the display of Galway, which was absolutely fantastic, the title, as you know, went to Shelburne, so we had to do a mad dash across the city to get to Shelburne, and obviously the cup final, which was immediately afterwards, was a great occasion as well. So that was great, and then going the length and breadth of the country to visit the League of Ireland grounds again, just for me was really memorable, really rewarding, and it reminded me why League of Ireland football is so different and so unique, so different from other leagues, and so unique in its own way. And for me, going to the grounds in person was just a great honour and a great experience. I loved watching the matches. Generally, I thought the quality of the football was great. The warmth of the reception for myself was great, and it was fantastic to meet all of those people who run all of the clubs, as well as to see some great, exciting football.
And League of Ireland is very much one of the key pillars of the FAI strategy for 2022 to 2025, which has just been launched.
Yeah, look, we say in the strategy that we want to be bold and radical in our thinking in relation to the League of Ireland. And actually I want to build on what I've just mentioned, really, in terms of the uniqueness of League of Ireland football, in terms of the importance to local communities, but also the fact that it's just a very different type of football, and the passion of the fans comes through so clearly because they tend to be so close to the pitch. So so we'll look very closely at what we can do with the brand, which is League of Ireland football, and we've committed in the strategy to look at a rebrand from 2023 onwards. But also, and perhaps most importantly, we've also committed to look at how we can drive forward the facilities and the infrastructure around all of the League of Ireland and Women's National League grounds. Now, that's not something that's going to be addressed or changed overnight, but we are committing to a plan and a vision for that, and we'll work with the League of Ireland clubs, which is critical, both on a local basis and on a national basis, in relation to going to the government and saying, this is what we believe is necessary to take the League of Ireland to the next level. And I think we've seen in other markets, in particular England, where the transformation of facilities has led to a transformation in how the game has been seen and consumed by both fans, because it's super important that we give the fans the best possible experience that they can have, but also by broadcast and commercial partners. So very high on our agenda, and genuinely I hope we can work with the clubs to bring around real change for the League of Ireland.
It was a fantastic commitment by everybody over the last 2 years during the COVID situation to get the leagues played and to get the leagues finished. But now fans are back. There's so much to look forward to this season.
No, absolutely. And as I say, the fans are unique. They give a real unique perspective and atmosphere to League of Ireland games. Those matches that I went to at Dalymount in particular, just a very special atmosphere there. So great that the fans can be back and watching the matches live. And yeah, this season promises so much. From having Jack Byrne and Danny Mandrew together in one team again at Shamrock Rovers. Obviously, the return of Damien Duff to Shelburne is of real interest to everyone, and everyone's fascinated to see what he'll do there. We've got Rory Higgins, who's found his feet, if you like, in his first season at Derry, and with the commitment that's been made there from the chairman, it'll be really interesting to see what happens. I guess everyone will be looking to see what James Abankwah does at St Pat's now that he's made his move but has come back and is playing in the league. So many of those subplots and so many of those stories that I think makes the League of Ireland what it is, and I really believe last year was a special season, culminating, as I say, both in the women's FAI Cup final, but in particular the men's FAI Cup final, which I thought was a very, very special atmosphere in the Aviva, and showed what we can do with two League of Ireland clubs on that type of stage. So we really want to drive forward from the end of last season. We want to see our League of Ireland clubs successful in Europe, and we want to see the League of Ireland be as competitive as it can be. And I think everyone's looking forward to a really special season.
Now I'm delighted to be joined by the Head of Marketing for SSE Airtricity, David Manning. David, you're so very welcome here today.
Thank you very much. It's great to be here. What an exciting time, the launch of the 22 season. We're really looking forward to seeing the league go from success to success. So we've got the SSE Airtricity Premier Division, we've got the First Division, and we've got the Women's National League as well. Very exciting times.
It's set to be a really busy season. So much happening. What are you looking forward to most?
Well, if we look at the season we've just had, that was incredibly exciting as it was. And for us as a business, it was the first time we had sponsored the Women's National League, which was wonderful to be in that space and be participating in that. And if we look what happened, so you've got Shamrock Rovers come through with their 19th title. Wow. You've got Shelburne FC getting promoted from the First Division and coming through now into the Premier Division. And then Shelburne again in the Women's National League, right down to the wire, final game of the season, and they won the title. Fair dues to them.
So from a sponsorship point of view then, what can we expect from you? What are the plans?
Well, we're really excited to see teams like Sligo Rovers coming through into the Women's National League. We're looking forward to seeing UCD, and we're looking forward to seeing Shelburne, obviously now in the Premier Division as well, which is nice. For us as a business, what's going to be important is we're a green energy company, and what we want to do is to be able to support the clubs and support the communities and what they do. And I think that's the really unique thing about these competitions, is that it's really close, it's really community based. So it's a different league, if I can use that language. So what we want to do is to support those clubs at that local level in terms of the things that they do. We want then to promote what they are doing, so on a peer-to-peer basis, that everybody can learn from the great things that each club is doing, and then with that everyone develops and it becomes a different league in every sense of the word.
And just before we finish up, let's have a final word.
All that's left for me to say is the very best of luck to the clubs, to the players and to the supporters. I hope they have a great season ahead of them, and really looking forward to seeing everyone at the matches.
And we echo those thoughts, David. So thanks everybody for joining us on the Launch Live show. The 2022 season begins on Friday with the President's Cup final between Shamrock Rovers and St Patrick's Athletic, which is live and free on LOI TV. And then the Premier Division and First Division begins the week after, with the Women's National League kicking off on the 5th of March. So we're all set for another great season of League of Ireland football. Until next time.
SSE Airtricity, official sponsor of the men's and women's leagues.